Yu-Gi-Oh! Time once again, as this series is so meaningful to me from my younger days growing up with it, collecting and playing the card game, and so much more. Recently, I started up a series of videos that go through the Generation 1 era of Yu-Gi-Oh! So essentially, anything that deals with Yu-Gi-Moto along with his friends on their adventures. This trip down memory lane is filled with a lot of great times flooding back in after so long for my obsession with all things Yu-Gi-Oh! Growing up, and I hope for you it can provide that as well. Today, we are continuing our journey through the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where last time we looked into the second season of the series, which had the Battle City arc, introducing the new dual disc technology, the Egyptian god cards, and the big bad guy of Merrick Ishtar. For season 3, we are going to continue from where season 2 left off, as the quarterfinals for the tournament had just ended, and not only are the final duels about to happen, but a whole long side plot that involves the introduction of the third Kaiba brother. We are also going to talk about the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie, the one that was released in theaters, so that's fun. Each part in the series can be viewed standalone, but this also can be viewed as one big series. And with all that said, welcome to the puzzling world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Part 3. As we continue on, as the blimp is ready to make its landing on the Kaiba Corp Island, the blimp itself gets hacked into, and a blue-haired kid named Noah appears on video and ends up having a lot of information known about Kaiba as a fortress from the sea rises up to stop the blimp and holds it docked in from continuing on to the island. Here is where the plot really diverts from anything we had just been dealing with from the last season, which is kind of an annoying thing if you were watching this as new episodes were coming out, because you really just want to get back to the finals, but even worse for that feeling is that this isn't a short segue from the main plot. It lasts for roughly 24 episodes before we get back to the main duels. It's so inserted in here just to make season 3 possible, as if it only focused on the finals, you'd only get what feels like half a season. But it's just so weird to not get this type of filler story at the end of the season, rather than right in the middle of a giant story already happening. Either way, it's a weird decision. Remember the Big Five from part 1 of the series, Kaiba's old board of directors for Kaiba Corp? Well, they are back, and this time they are trapped in the virtual world after the events of dealing with Kaiba and Yugi from back then. Noah had gotten into the mainframe of Kaiba Corp and taken the Big Five's minds and brought them into his virtual world, as they can now work together to all get revenge on Kaiba, and by extension, his associates. Everyone here gets challenged by them to a tournament in the virtual world, as if any of the Big Five win a duel, they can take the bodies of the loser and switch places with their minds to keep them trapped within the virtual world. They introduce the concept of a deck master that stays active while not in play, kind of like a mascot for the deck overall, adding in some new rules to the duels themselves because why not?
There's more duels and more action when Yu-Gi-Oh! Returns! And now, back to Yu-Gi-Oh!
For now, we don't need to worry about the fate of Bakura, Odeon, Mai, or Merrick. We'll get back to that in many episodes from now. As we enter into the virtual world, the Big Five take on the appearance of Yu-Gi-Oh! Creatures themselves, as the others have to construct new decks from scratch with the virtual allotment of cards to choose from. Something is a bit off when Yugi tries to claim the Dark Magician as his deck master, as Kuribo comes popping out instead, and this can't be changed here. Tristan and Duke are paired up together as they are in a castle where things look and even feel real for it being a virtual world, as they try looking for where Serenity went. For her, she finds herself near some water, worrying about her brother, naturally. Joey ends up alone at the moment, and Taya is alone as well, but she ends up in some dangerous situations that leave her actually getting hurt, realizing that the virtual world is too dangerous to just be some regular old illusion. For Kaiba and Mokuba, they find themselves in a forest, thinking about what Noah has to do with any of this, only to find a special door that leads them to a recreation of the orphanage they grew up in together, making the mystery for them only weirder. As Yugi finds himself still dealing with a duel with one of the Big Five, Noah continues to mess with Kaiba and Mokuba, showing them their own past to strike an emotional core about it, as it's being used to drive a wedge between the two brothers. Tristan and Duke eventually find Serenity and rescue her from the dangers of the world. Taya ends up being held captive by some of the monsters she ran into, and suffice to say that things aren't going too well for anyone here in the virtual world. And by the way, that was supposed to be episode 100 of Yu-Gi-Oh! And for what it was nothing feeling special, and that's kind of sad to see. Just thought I'd put that out there. For Yugi though, he comes to realize the power that a cute little Karibo could have, being able to defeat the member of the Big Five and stay in the game. Taya, who seemingly now is going to be cooked and eaten by the giants that took her, is now saved by a penguin as they escape from the giants with ease. So that's good for her, but I feel this good feeling won't last a long time. Kaiba and Mokuba work through some of the issues brought up that was meant to cause division between them, as Kaiba plans on defeating Noah and, you know, probably get out of the virtual world and back to the finals of his own tournament. So about that penguin that saved Taya, well, all it did was then bring her to another member of the Big Five that challenges her to a duel, or more like forces her to a duel as she can't leave. But luckily her deck master is the Dark Magician Girl, and of course we need the Dark Magician Girl here. It's been too long since we've seen her. Due to the cold nature of the battle and Taya being the only living organism here that isn't a penguin, the cold has ice form upon her from her feet as she loses any life points. Taya may not be the best duelist around, but Dark Magician Girl helps her out by giving her advice during the duel itself. Yugi ends up hearing Taya as he has found himself in a maze of doors that pit him against other creatures to face, but continues towards Taya's voice. We get to see more of a deep dive on Kaiba's past with Mokuba, being there for him as a real brother as Seto was forced to grow up quickly and turned into the hardened business person he would become. We see some real wholesome moments between the brothers as Noah sits there mad, making fun of them for the bond that they have with one another. Yugi and Yami Yugi work together to figure out the maze, having to face creatures in an increasingly difficult order to hopefully get out of there and make it to Taya. She's trying to hold her own in battle, but the member of the Big Five isn't worried about the Dark Magician Girl on her own, rather than what would happen if the Dark Magician were there with her. Yugi actually ends up finding Taya, but is blocked from getting close to the duel. Taya ends up getting the card Sage's Stone to summon the Dark Magician from Yugi's deck as it breaks into the duel arena and both magicians work together to take down the Big Five member. That's what you get for opening your mouth about what would happen if this happened. Oh look, it happened. Here, thanks to Taya having the Sage's Stone card, it represents her close bond with Yugi, with both magicians representing them as well. As we saw with the Dark Magician coming into the aid of Dark Magician Girl, Yugi came to the aid of Taya. Joey accidentally finds an exit that brings him back to the blimp, and inside he finds Mai still in a coma, but it was all a trap as she morphs into one of the Big Five members and the room around them becomes a courtroom, as Joey and his deck master the Flame Swordsman get ready to battle. Yugi and Taya eventually find themselves getting to where Joey is by entering through a door they come across, seeing that Joey is in the middle of this duel. Meanwhile, Kaiba and Mokuba are seeing more visions from their past, as one of them strikes a chord with Kaiba as it was him inventing a virtual world, as this idea would then be tossed away by their adoptive father, Gozaburo. But secretly, he stole the idea and built the virtual world anyway. Joey's duel is a bit unfair thanks to the Big Five members' cheating ways, but Noah seems to have a moral compass on some degree, appearing in the courtroom and stopping the duel because of this, but Joey says he's down to continue the duel as long as it's played fair from this point on. In the end, Joey makes the Big Five member a gambling man, where arduous decision forces the opponent to pick between one of two cards that could go in either the duelist's favor, and would result in one of them definitively winning. At first it seemed like he was going to pick the right card, but Joey pulls a quick bit of guilt about choosing that card to make him second guess himself, thus choosing the other card, which results in Joey winning the duel. Kaiba and Mokuba later on come across footage of Noah living at the same house, and having to prove himself to their father, as they are now more confused than ever, never having met Noah in the past. Tristan, Duke, and Serenity find themselves cornered by another member of the Big Five as he wanted to take on Serenity as an easy target, but through arguing with the others, it turns into a 3-on-1 duel. The only caveat is that the three of them on one team cannot work on strategies together, and anyone who breaks that rule or just loses will meet a fate below them, as a radioactive waste pool is waiting for him underneath. A fate that Tristan meets when sending in one of his creatures to protect her after she was targeted for not being a well-versed player, sending Tristan plummeting into the radioactive waters below. R.I.P. Tristan. Yugi, Joey, and Taya head out to find Serenity after they catch the sound of her voice. As Serenity feels guilt for what just happened to Tristan, Duke brings a bit of Dungeon Dice Masters with him, changing up how the battle is going, as he then tries to convince Serenity to not give up and use the confidence her brother gave her, as then Joey, Yugi, and Taya find their way to them, with Joey giving her the same speech, essentially, as they end up now defeating the member of the Big Five, but he still ends up stealing Tristan's body anyway. Tristan, luckily, is still alive, but now just as a robotic monkey, while his body is now being used, and that not real Tristan is going after Kaiba, trying to get revenge, but Kaiba defends himself, as the rest of the group find where Kaiba is and are excited to see that Tristan's okay, but then they notice that it's just his body and it had been taken over, and still trying to attack Kaiba, but robot monkey Tristan and Joey attack the controlled body of Tristan. So then he gets on a motorbike, grabs Mokuba, and rides off, and Kaiba wastes no time and heads after him him on a motorbike as well, as the others deal with their new robot monkey friend that Joey is suspicious of since Tristan can't speak properly through it. Serenity steps in to aid in the protection of the monkey from Joey and Duke, and Tristan of course doesn't mind this at all. Between him and Duke, who isn't trying to mac on Joey's sister, Kaiba ends up running into another member of the Big Five, this time one of the most powerful, the one who was his father's go-to guy. Kaiba gets ready to get into the battle here and chooses Lord of D as his deckmaster. And during their battle, the revenge plot here opens up as the member of the Big Five talks about him being the next in line to run the company, and Kaiba took that from him. And now this opens up more memories about Kaiba's past and the shaky relationship they had with their stepfather. And even if there was a lot of money and stuff to gain from being the owner's son, the constant threat of being sent back to the orphanage was dangled over them, especially when Kaiba at a young age had his business skills put to the test, given a large sum of money to somehow make it worth tenfold in a year or face going back to where he got both of them from. But it goes deeper than that, as the member of the Big Five was tasked by Kaiba during this test to purchase the majority of another company that treated their employees like family and had a deep care for them, only for Kaiba to then force the owner to buy it back from him at 10 times the initial price, or he'd shut it all down and ruin all the lives of the employees the owner views as family. While Kaiba did what he had to do for the sake of himself and his brother, his actions and how he did it were that of a heartless and ruthless businessman. This would manifest further to the person Kaiba had grown up to be. After going back and forth with their words about how business is done or shouldn't be done, the duel continues while the others ended up finding a truck that Joey drives them all through the open area. During this drive, as Tristan ponders over the love of Serenity, he flips a switch on him that allows him to have his voice back, shocking all the others. Mokuba is in the watchful care of Noah at this point as they watch over Kaiba's duel, with Noah still trying to drive a wedge between the brothers. This leads to a lot more of an emotional flashback on dueling company-owned percentages. After a major breaking point between the brothers and a fight over the ownership of the company at that point in time, and how despite any major moments between the brothers, they work through it all, with it still ending with Mokuba helping Kaiba have enough ownership of the company to take it over from their adoptive father, and keeping the ownership away from full control of the Big Five. In the end, Kaiba still wins the duel as Mokuba never lost faith in him, still confusing Noah as he wants nothing more than to break Mokuba away from Seto. And at this point, he now creates a virtual version of Kaiba to fool Mokuba into thinking some awful things, with this projection of Kaiba feeling real. Noah finally is able to gain control over Mokuba, and when Kaiba comes around, Mokuba won't go with him, as Yugi and Taya try going after Kaiba only to find themselves in a recreation of Kaiba Manor, seeing photos of Noah with Gozaboru, and finally getting to Kaiba as Noah proves to Kaiba and the others that he is Gozaboru's actual son, and that Kaiba was meant to be adopted in the efforts to motivate Noah and help him for his studies. Kaiba doesn't believe it fully based on the age of the photos and the age of Noah now not adding up, but for the others back in the truck, they are dealing with the return of the Big Five, as they all attempt to take their bodies as their own vessels forcefully. Noah then intervenes, stopping this from happening by saving them, as forcefully stealing the bodies is against the rules.
There's more duels and more action with Yu-Gi-Oh! Returns! And now, back to Yu-Gi-Oh!
In the meantime, we finally cut back to Merrick, who is just so bored waiting around for everyone and decides to start investigating everything for himself. Since they all want human bodies and don't think that it's fair that Tristan's body was acquired, Noah offers them a chance to all use Tristan's body to duel Yugi for the sake of them all getting bodies after that if they defeat them. As the Big Five all spend time arguing amongst themselves, Joey comes in to help Yugi as they agree to allow Joey help Yugi in the battle, since 5-on-1 is too much and not fair. As their battle starts, Kaiba still tries searching for where Mokuba is and wonders over the validity of Noah's claims. When he eventually comes across a digital recreation of his own plans for a Kaiba Land theme park, he's more shocked in how it was possible based on how secret the planning and designs for it all were. Yugi and Joey do their best together to keep battling the members of the Big Five, showing off some real good strategy together, as Kaiba sees more proof of Noah's life that shows him actually being the true son of Kaiba's adoptive father, and wonders what really happened to Noah, if any of this were to be true, for him to somehow be the same age, and for Seto and Mokuba truly getting adopted without any knowledge of him. For the battle with the Big Five, they end up being able to summon the five-headed dragon to make things a lot worse. As Yugi and Joey continue to work together to figure out how to take down this powerful beast of a creature, they end up fusing Dark Magician and the Flame Swordsman together to create the Dark Flare Knight, baiting the Big Five to attack and destroy it, but they lose no life points thanks to the card's abilities, also allowing Mirage Knight to be automatically summoned to take its place. Thanks to Mirage Knight's abilities, it's able to not only gain more attack points, attacks, but also permanently defeat the dragon thanks to it being a light attribute monster. Even though this is a big win overall, thanks to the Big Five having placed a deal with a Dark Ruler, Berserk Dragon becomes their new deck master to keep them in the duel. Joey aids in taking Yugi's Dark Magician and turning it into Dark Magician Knight, raising the attack points higher than the Berserk Dragon, as now they end up defeating the Big Five in this duel. They all try to take the rest of the group's bodies away, but Noah stops this from happening, taking them all back to his location without Tristan's body and banishing them to an eternity in the virtual world, leaving them in a faraway part of the world as Noah is ready to confront Kaiba himself over who the real heir to the Kaiba Corp throne is. Back with the full group, Joey and Duke find a special button on the monkey version of Tristan that takes them all directly to Kaiba Land, where Kaiba is on a ride and brought right to a special volcano-based dueling arena. Noah was there waiting for him as we get into the real explanation of what happened to Noah, as he shows off his digital brain that is in the virtual world after he died in a car accident 6 years ago, keeping him looking like he's that younger age and giving more context to Kaiba's understanding of it all. Eventually, the rest of the gang get to Kaiba as well to see the duel. Noah explains further during this duel about having his mind saved here and how he was able to gain all the knowledge he has about the company, becoming smarter and smarter thanks to the lack of limitations that a human mind can have. We further see the earlier moments of when he was first saved in the virtual world and how his father would always come to visit, and Noah wanted to keep expanding the capabilities within the virtual world that soon led to his father to become distracted with his new adoptive kids as Noah stored that pain within him. Noah then uses Mokuba as an emotional shield, keeping Kaiba at bay a bit in the duel so as to not harm the brainwashed Mokuba. Kaiba begins going through and realizing all of the mistakes that he has made and how he treats Mokuba, as Yugi helps Kaiba remember meaningful ways to get through to him. Kaiba summons his Blue Eyes White Dragon, helping shake off the control that Noah has on Mokuba, and Noah seemingly ends up winning the duel, but not quite. With Kaiba just wanting Mokuba free, Mokuba runs towards him, only for them both to be turned to stone by Noah. Yugi gets frustrated by this, calling Noah out for using Mokuba like that in a cheating way, similar to how the Big Five played with cheating mentalities, stepping in to continue the duel for him now, and thus continuing with the life points from the match. Yugi starts off with only 400 compared to Noah's 7,400. As this duel goes on, Noah is sick of hearing all of Yugi's friends cheer him on and hurl insults at him, causing them to one by one turn to stone after every turn. Yugi still gives the battle his all, sending the force of all of his magicians to take down Noah, but to no avail. Through the power of his friends guiding him spiritually and getting some of Kaiba's cards, Yugi is able to use the full might of Kaiba's 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, fusing them together for the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon to come out, taking Noah's higher risen up life points down enough where he now uses Diffusion, getting all 3 dragons on their own again as they all attack at once to take down the remaining life points Noah has. The others are now turned back from being stone, and Noah self-reflects on the similarities that Yugi has to Seto, and how no matter what, they never give up in situations that can feel impossible to overcome. He has harbored this resentment for his stepbrothers through how his dad made him feel, seemingly forgotten in this virtual world as the real world and the business itself was all focused to Kaiba. Noah's emotions get the better of him to take this fight to the real world, trying to take over Yugi until he realizes that another spirit already inhabits his body, stopping this from happening as the virtual version of Gozaburo makes himself known to everyone. It's further explained that Seto was just meant to be prepped to become a vessel for Noah's mind, which is pretty dark in thinking that the father went to an orphanage to get a random kid to then put the mind of his dead kid in. He didn't go forward with that as he saw Seto's mind as perfect enough without Noah to continue on, as he really lays into what he thinks about Noah. After Kaiba took over the company and bested his adoptive father, he implanted his mind into the virtual world as well, and is the ultimate puppet master for all that has happened on our detour of a storyline. Gozaburo's real plans is to now destroy the real world and trap everyone within the virtual one, using Noah's old plans of having a global network to expand the virtual world, similar to how Gozaburo stole the ideas from Seto in the past. Noah this whole time was just another pawn used in his father's own selfish and greedy plans. So he helps the gang escape from there, but this only turns out to be a fake recreation of their memories outside of the virtual world, as Noah then takes over Mokuba and escapes for himself to the real world through an actual exit from it. As the others have to deal with everything in the virtual world for now, Kaiba is challenged to a duel by Gozaburo in the hopes of getting out of the virtual world and shutting this whole place down. To really put Kaiba to the test here, Gozaburo is using a deck that consists of Exodia, trying to bring him back to the moment where Yugi originally defeated him. But even going further, he summons Exodia Necros, that has the effect that as long as all of the pieces of Exodia are in the graveyard, it's essentially invincible and immune to nearly anything. Noah, through Mokuba's body, has plans outside in the real world to just destroy the virtual world, taking everyone in there with it, but then remembers the kindness and brotherly love that Mokuba has shown him, changing his mind after setting up a targeted satellite strike, trying to rush in and then save the others now, as Merrick has has finally done something and destroyed the controls, with no way of stopping the incoming strike from happening now. Noah warns everyone that they all need to escape before it's too late, as Gozaburo was ready to take Kaiba's body and leave for himself, but Kaiba stops him, saying that they will continue dueling and if he wins, he can have Kaiba's body. As the others get out of there, Tristan returns in his regular body, with Yugi staying behind as Noah helps him get to where Kaiba is to save him. Kaiba actually ends up defeating his adoptive father, who still tries to steal his body, but Yugi saves him at the last second, with Noah helping them get out to safety from the virtual world. Noah heads back in there, giving Mokuba his body back, as the two say goodbye before Mokuba is brought to safety with everyone else making it to the blimp, as they all get away with Noah holding back his father from enacting any more plans as the virtual world is completely destroyed. Gozaburo's massive flame spirit tries to escape from the blast and get to Kaiba's blimp, but they are able to get away from it in time, with the fortress and the virtual world coming to an end as Noah sacrificed himself in order to stop the evil doings of his father, with Kaiba setting course to the beginning of the end, preparing for the Battle City finals and burying the past. That's at least the end of Noah's virtual world arc, giving us a third Kaiba brother and a lot of really cool deep dives into Kaiba's past that haven't been fully explored to see just how messed up and sometimes dark everything truly is. Luckily though, it is time to continue on to the Battle City finals, as Kaiba, Yugi, Joey, and Merrick have a lot in store for what's about to come.
There's more duels and more action with Yu-Gi-Oh! Returns! And now, back to Yu-Gi-Oh!
Now we are ready for the finals, and it's going to be a special 4-way duel up a tower, as the lower your life points are, the higher you rise, forcing the two losers of the 4-way duel to be the first matchup of the semifinals. Kaiba really wants to target Yugi here so he can acquire his Egyptian God card, being powerful enough to then face Merrick and go up against the Winged Dragon of Ra. Yugi is the most conflicted here, trying to figure out his strategy and who he will truly face in battle, wanting to take down Merrick because of his evil plans, wanting to battle Kaiba for their ongoing rivalry, and Joey for their friendship and bond with a promise of a real no-holds-barred duel between the two of them. Joey is all about taking down Merrick for the sake of Mai, only having full-on revenge-seeking intentions for all of his actions. Merrick doesn't really care, as his plans are always the same and can enact them how he pleases, because he's Merrick and he's cool like that. As the order is chosen for turns, Yugi decides that he really wants to face Joey in the promise of their duel together. And then we get this hard-as-hell cover for the Game Boy Advance game, the Sacred Cards. God, I love this game. Kaiba can't really focus on losing on purpose, so his plans for going against Yugi first are kind of left to chance a bit. The duel starts going in every direction, as a 4-way duel is pretty crazy in conception for planning who battles who. Joey begins to get teamed up on as Kaiba helps Merrick, as Joey pleads with Yugi to help him by attacking him to send Joey to face Merrick in the semifinals, getting him to hesitantly agree, bringing down Joey's life points as Joey attacks Kaiba, setting off his Ring of Destruction card that would clear his remaining life points, with Joey using Grave Robber to use Merrick's Spell of Pain, sending the Ring of Destruction over to Merrick to defeat him, while now being open for Kaiba to attack Joey directly with his Blade Knight, sending Joey and Merrick to be the first battle in the semifinals. The dual tower concept is just so cool, honestly, and kind of a way to keep the duels going on for a bit longer, but like I said, it's still cool. With the first matchup going on between Joey and Merrick, Merrick sends the battle to the Shadow Realm right away, and every monster that is destroyed, both of them will feel respectively. Joey puts up as much of a fight as he can in the duel, but his energy is getting wiped out, as Mai is the one thing racing through his mind to keep him dueling for the sake of her fate. After Merrick forces him to discard some of his powerful cards, Joey ends up being able to bring back his Jinzo, but Merrick is a tricky one, sacrificing Joey's monsters on his side of the field to summon the creature Lava Golem, a powerful card, but it drains life points away from Joey as Merrick continues his strategies of building up to something stronger. Joey ends up being able to get rid of the Lava Golem and bring forward Guilford the Lightning to aid in the battle, but things might be too late. Merrick ends up using Nightmare Mirror to stop Joey's attack, deal damage to Joey, and discard one card from his hand, this being the Winged Dragon of Ra. Shortly after this, he uses Monster Reborn to bring forward the Winged Dragon of Ra, as it then transforms into the Egyptian god Phoenix, making the duel nearly impossible for Joey to do anything. Joey ends up taking immense damage from Ra's powerful attack, barely hanging in there as Ra returns to the graveyard due to its effect, that Merrick used to sacrifice some life points in order to destroy Joey's creatures and weaken him. Joey still goes on to duel and pulls Gearfried the Iron Knight, summoning him, having enough attack to take out Merrick for good, but Joey ends up collapsing from the exhaustion of the duel before sending in the attack to win, and based on his condition, Merrick is declared the winner, even if Joey may have nearly defeated him. Now Joey joins the list of those affected by the consequences of the Shadow Games, battling within his own mind as he is now unconscious himself, and taken away for medical treatment. Yugi takes this all very personally, of course, but no time to dwell on that as now Yugi has to go up against Kaiba for their match in the semifinals. Kaiba sets the stage around them to look like a coliseum, and the two waste no time getting things going, as Kaiba draws Obelisk the Tormentor from the jump into his hand and eventually tries to summon it, only for Yugi to hold it at bay a bit with Life Force Sword, as Kaiba then uses Lullaby of Obedience to take Slifer the Sky Dragon from Yugi's deck. But Yugi isn't having this, using Exchange right away to take the card back from Kaiba's hand. Eventually, Yugi is able to get Slifer into play as Kaiba gets his Obelisk free and put back into his hand, attributing his monsters and summoning Obelisk to the field, as for the first time, two Egyptian god cards are ready to face each other in epic proportions. It's epic, and the battle is on a scale in which we've never seen before. There's been so much build up to this as both Yugi and Kaiba go back and forth, combating each other at every turn. At one point, the gods clash, causing a powerful beam of light to shine from the duel tower, as the two gods take each other out, and Yugi and Kaiba are given a vision of the past. From there, the battle continues, but Kaiba eventually uses Magical Trick Mirror to use Monster Reborn from Yugi's graveyard, bringing back Obelisk the Tormentor into the game momentarily until it returns to the graveyard after saving Kaiba from Yugi's Dark Magician. Kaiba also strings together his Blue Eyes White Dragons to put Yugi in the worst possible position. Yugi then uses the Flute of Summoning Dragon to bring Joey's Red Eyes Black Dragon that he still has with him to the field. As Yugi stays in the battle a little longer, Kaiba pulls everything together to bring forth the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Yugi ends up fusing his Buster Blader and Dark Magician together to bring out the Dark Paladin, gaining extra attack points for the dragons on the field, eventually using Diffusion to turn the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon into 3 separate Blue Eyes again, using Diffusion Wave Motion to give up some life points to then attack all of the Blue Eyes and defeat Kaiba in the battle, moving on to the final duel against Merrick, beating Kaiba at his own tournament. Kaiba's not too happy about this, tossing Obelisk at Yugi and walking away all mad and pouty. Oh cool, Joey's okay. I was worried about him. His stubbornness to prove himself to Kaiba has him challenge Kaiba to a duel to determine who will get 3rd place, and Kaiba accepts this offer. Joey puts up the best duel that he can, and at one point, he gets control of one of Kaiba's Blue Eyes White Dragons after reviving it from the graveyard, as Kaiba sends out another one, having them knock each other out in a double KO, but Kaiba then just revives another one for himself. Even though Joey did his best, Kaiba still defeats him in the duel and doesn't care about anything anymore. Nothing convinces him to stay or even further putting a stop to Merrick, wanting to destroy the island they are dueling on and forgetting all of this since his plans are done. Mokuba though stops him, telling him that he wants to see the old Seto back, the one that he truly remembers, and tells him to help Yugi take down Merrick since he figured out the one strategy to actually defeat the Winged Dragon of Ra, leaving Kaiba feeling, you know, some feelings, I guess.
This Double Fringe Miss is brought to you by Gamersupps.
This just in from Gamersupps. It's a brand new deal for a brand new launch. This is the Lunch Date Collection. I mean, look at this awesome shirt. Look at this awesome waifu cup. Is that a lunchbox? You can get this stuff while supplies last. If you spend $30, you get a free sticker pack. If you spend $75, you get a free shirt. If you spend $125, you get a free box of sus snacks. And they're delicious. And if you spend $200, you get a free Lunch Date lunchbox with the Lunch Date shaker inside of it, and all the tiers stack up. And even on top of that, just for you, 10% off if you use code FRINGE at checkout. So go ahead, use the code, save yourself 10%, and get some fun stuff. Agreeing to do what he can, handing Yugi a special card that he was planning to use against Merrick to defeat him. This card was Fiend's Sanctuary. From there, it is time for the final duel, Yami Yugi versus Yami Merrick. And for the Shadow Game that starts, it has the rules of parts of their body disappearing as they lose life points. The full repercussions of losing is permanent death, ceasing to exist. However, for Merrick, he would be okay. At least Yami Merrick, since he's just this alter ego developed into this evil manifestation. The duel goes about as intense as you think it would. Merrick gets his Winged Dragon of Ra in the graveyard, and Yugi gets out his Slifer the Sky Dragon. Merrick, through his Dark Spell Regeneration card, uses Yugi's discarded Monster Reborn to bring forth the Winged Dragon of Ra in the form of its Egyptian god Phoenix mode. Merrick sacrifices some life points to have Ra destroy Slifer before it returns to the graveyard, and uses Zombie's Jewel to get Yugi's Monster Reborn into his hand, as Yugi gets to draw a card and places his Fiend's Sanctuary face down. Merrick brings back his Winged Dragon of Ra, and by giving his life points to now only have one, Ra grows more powerful, and somehow Merrick fuses with the God card. This is dope. When he goes to attack, Yugi activates Fiend's Sanctuary, summoning a Metal Fiend token, forcing Merrick to stop the attack as the effect of the token would redirect the attack back at him. So he uses Diffusion and separates from Ra, getting all of his life points back and weakening Ra as it goes back to the graveyard. Yugi then uses Multiply, making 2 more Metal Fiend tokens pop up, sacrificing them to summon Obelisk the Tormentor. He attacks Merrick directly, taking down his life points to near nothing as Merrick then uses Metal Reflect Slime to bring out a slime token to eventually fuse with his Revival Jam, to bring out the Egyptian God Slime to mimic Obelisk. Merrick makes as much of a comeback as he can. Dark Magician Girl makes another appearance, which is always fun to see, and Merrick uses Mining for Magical Stones to get Monster Reborn back into his hand, and we can all guess which card he wants to bring back at this moment. Not long after, he uses the Monster Reborn to bring back the Winged Dragon of Ra, transforming it once more into the Egyptian god Phoenix, draining some of his life points, and then attacking Obelisk, taking the god out. Yugi then uses his own Monster Reborn to bring back Slifer the Sky Dragon, as Ra takes out Slifer as well, but Ra is also sent back to the grave, with all of the gods now completely countered by both duelists. Merrick uses Surprise Attack from Beyond to bring back Ra again, sacrificing his life points down to 1 and fusing with the god, with Yugi using Soul Taker to sacrifice Merrick's Egyptian god slime, counting as multiple monsters to bring an infinitely powered Obelisk back to play, as Merrick stops the attack coming in from Obelisk through his face-down card class system, as he also has powered up Ra even more. When Ra goes in for an attack, Yugi uses Magical Dimension to sacrifice Obelisk and his other monster to bring out Dark Magician, stopping Ra's attack with the targeted monster no longer on the field, as Yugi uses Ragnarok to remove the Winged Dragon of Ra from play in the duel. With Yugi at 700 life points and Merrick at only 1, and Ra completely gone, only a shred of Yami Merrick still exists, with Odeon showing up to have the real Merrick come back out from the state, and in the end, the real Merrick surrenders the duel, banishing the evil Yami Merrick for good and giving Yugi the ultimate win of the Battle City tournament, and I guess saving the day. Merrick gives Yugi the Winged Dragon of Ra card for winning, and even shows him on his back the secret of the Pharaoh that is carried down through generations and inscribed onto his back. Merrick then talks about the victims of Yami Merrick being fully recovered from their shadow games, and also giving Yugi the Millennium Rod for safekeeping. But they all need to get off the island because Kaiba wants to blow it up anyway, so that's fun. Also, the blimp is out of power, so that's also really fun, and they only have an hour to somehow get out of there. Thanks, Kaiba. This was unnecessary, and we all appreciate you for it. Joey goes to check in on Mai and sees that she hasn't woken up yet, crying over this as he begs her to wake up. Eventually, she does, but she was kind of just pretending to still be unconscious as a little joke, but also just to see if Joey really cares about her. Bakura as well also seems normal for the time being, but who knows, things never are that simple, as we get a bit of an epilogue with Kaiba thinking back to all that has happened and the rest of the gang trying to figure out how to get off the island. They all end up getting saved in a helicopter as they watch the island get destroyed down below, and none of that needed to happen, but it sure was cool, I guess. Later on, back home, Ishizu and Merrick thank Yugi for all the help and leave to head back. Duke leaves the group as well for more Dungeon Dice Monster shenanigans. Mai heads out as well, with Joey not offering his feelings further, and with the tournament over, the next day, Yugi is ready to offer Joey his Red Eyes Black Dragon back, but on their terms of earning it back, meeting up with him and preparing to have a duel against one another as the episode comes to an end. Without seeing the results, we go and hang out with Taya in Serenity, as Taya shows her around the city to help her see all of the stuff that she hasn't been able to experience. This feels more like a recap of anything that talks about the events that have occurred throughout the past 2 seasons, and eventually Taya meets with Yugi. And while they still have time, they should enjoy whatever they have left with Yami Yugi and before whatever comes next for them in the series as season 3 comes to a close. And man, what an exciting season. Sure, half of it was dedicated to a side story that comes out of nowhere, but at least it had an impact that meant something beyond just being a filler-filled segue. Okay, part of it really was, but there was good stuff there overall. Before we close off this video, around this time is when we got the first Yu-Gi-Oh movie, the biggest event at the time for a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, bringing in a tough new villain with high stakes for a true cinematic experience. Let's talk about Yu-Gi-Oh the movie, Pyramid of Light, and like the poster says, everything else was just practice.
There's more duels and more action when Yu-Gi-Oh returns. And now, back to Yu-Gi-Oh!
Now, one of the best memories of this movie was going to the theater to see it and getting one of the 4 exclusive cards with the price of admission. Those cards were Whatapon, Sorcerer of Dark Magic, Pyramid of Light, and the coveted Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. This card and creature in general were everything. As far as what happens in the movie, it takes place after season 3 has come to an end, with Yugi having all 3 of the Egyptian god cards. Kaiba is still working hard to figure out a way to defeat Yugi this time, practicing to do so but still never winning, blowing up his simulation from the sheer power of the gods and Yugi's skill, that were all input into the machine. Here we see the return of Pegasus to see how he's doing, as he totally wasn't killed off, at least not in the North American version of anything, as Kaiba wants to talk to him about a real way to defeat the god cards. Pegasus actually has a nightmare about something bad happening, seeing the god cards trapped in some sort of blue pyramid that represents the Millennium Puzzle, but, upside down. Kaiba and Pegasus get into a duel with the stakes of Kaiba's 3 blue eyes white dragons and whatever Pegasus has that can defeat the god cards. After Kaiba wins, Kaiba ends up taking 2 cards from Pegasus, which kinda confuses him because there is only 1 card that is able to do this, but Kaiba does what he wants, so who cares? Did you see his cool awesome blue eyes white jet? That's tight. With Yugi's fame hitting an all-time high, everyone wants to face him in a duel and wants those god cards naturally, as Taya helps Yugi escape from the mob of them as they end up back at the museum, seeing a new setup that is on display called the Pyramid of Light. Yugi's grandpa's there and helps read out the text on the sarcophagus, which reads out like a warning about a vision being fulfilled, and this triggers a vision for Yugi about all of the events to come, and when he wakes up, the Pyramid of Light is no longer there and the sarcophagus lies empty. After this, they run into Mokuba, who tells Yugi that Kaiba wants to see him and to bring his duel disc as well. When he gets there, he finds Kaiba ready to duel, sealing all of the exits so Yugi can't leave, but Joey and Tristan also get in there to watch it all happen. The duel goes on for a while as Kaiba finally plays a new card, a trap card called the Pyramid of Light, giving Yugi concern and to be on his toes. This card is able to stop Yugi from using any of the Egyptian god cards. Later, Kaiba fully has his Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon out on the field, but sacrifices it for the brand new Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. The Pyramid of Light then pulls Joey, Tristan, Taya, and Yugi's soul into the Millennium Puzzle, where things get a little weird having to deal with some mummies coming after them. Even though Kaiba is basically about to defeat Yugi, he wants Yugi to really remember this, but he needs to destroy the Pyramid of Light first now that he has a way to use the god cards, having the Blue Eyes Shining Dragon essentially self-destruct to destroy the whole field. But the pyramid is okay, as a voice exclaims they can't allow that to happen, as a mysterious figure comes up behind Kaiba and forces him out of the duel, to then take it over, introducing himself as Anubis, the Egyptian Lord of the Dead that the Pharaoh had already dealt with thousands of years ago. He also wears the Pyramid of Light from the museum around his neck, much like Yugi's puzzle, and starts facing Yugi in a duel with powerful ancient creatures, while the others inside of the puzzle are stuck dealing with all the troubles inside of there, while Yami Yugi has to deal with Anubis all by himself, once again. Eventually in this duel, Yugi is able to bring back the Blue Eyes Shining Dragon to have enough power to destroy the pyramid, causing Anubis to become irate with anger and power, and those trapped in the puzzle are all free once more. Anubis fuses his 2 Sphinx cards into 1 Great Sphinx, as Yugi then uses Kaiba's plans of using Return from the Different Dimension to have the god cards back in play, having them kind of fuse together to take out Anubis, and even though this looked like the end of it all, with Yugi turning back into his regular self, a large jackal version of Anubis rises from the ashes, making the monsters real and no longer a game, as both Yugi and Kaiba work together and have the Blue Eyes Shining Dragon take out Anubis for good, as Pegasus shows up to save them from the explosion happening in time. It's a really fun movie, especially at the time to experience, and the battles were really fun. The animation for film level quality was really cool, but other than that, it's nothing too crazy to add into what's already going on in the series. Just a fun segue and theater experience from back in the day. But now we have reached the end of what we are doing with this part of the series. Next time we will enter into season 4 to see what adventures are left for Yugi and friends, leading up further to all of the answers of the past being revealed, with other new threats getting in the way. I'll see you there. In the meantime, tell me some of your favorite moments from season 3 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Along with your own personal memories of seeing the movie in theaters, down below in the comments. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.
You